You as a coach out there have to think about all of the different things you're asking a player to do in your scheme. And then you've got to ask yourself, how much drill time have I allowed them to have to develop those skills? You are watching and listening to the Indy Drills podcast. It's a DB podcast where we talk about all things secondary, all things coverage. We even get the linebackers in there too, because you guys gotta cover as well. As always, sponsored by this great book right here, 101 DB Tips, the ultimate DB reference guide, everything you need to know to become a tip-top coverer in the secondary. Everything from how to cover in man, how to play zone, how to read the quarterback, how to train in the offseason, how to watch film. Everything you need to know is right here in this book. And with your season being over and Christmas coming up and an offseason, that program that needs to get going so that you are even better next year, or if you're on the bench, you're trying to get on the field, this is the route that you need to go. All right. Great people, grab a hold of their resources. This is a great one for you right here. I have a link to it down in the description below for my YouTube audience. For you folks that are listening on stream, go check it out at https:101dbtips.com. Get all that info there. But this is, if you're going into your off season and you're talking about being one of the best next year, you're talking about leveling up your game, it starts right there with a copy of this book, 101 DB Tips. All right. Getting into the show today, I'm going to talk to both my coaches and my players, and it's going to sound a little Jekyll and Hyde, but follow along with me. You guys sit here and check out this whole show because I'm talking to both of you groups. Going to let you know some things that you need to hear. As always, we'll take a user question and we'll get into a bunch of other things. Right off the top, what's current? If you guys watch that Monday Night Football game and you're a lover of plays in the secondary, then J.C. Horn provided that for you. The Carolina Panthers cornerback, the first pick at the defensive back at the cornerback position when he came out in the draft, really had a great game in a big game. Albeit they came up short against the San Francisco 49ers, but J.C. grabbed 2 interceptions in that game, and one of them was a really, really great one. Where he, it was such a high IQ football play. He's on a nub side. And for those of you who don't really know what that means, it's just, there's just a tight end to your side. All right. Just to break that down for you. So there's no receivers to your side. This will happen sometimes when you're in coverage, playing in a game, all the receivers are to the opposite side of you. So he's on the nub side. There's just a tight end and a running back to his side. Tight end blocks initially, running back goes away. So rather than just sitting there in a zone for no work, he moves across the field. All right, you should be seeing that right here on the screens. But he moves across the field and cuts off one of the crossing routes that are coming from the receivers on the other side of the field. Very high IQ play. Great job by him. Picks up 2 interceptions. Unfortunately, left the game with a concussion, but he left the start. 2 interceptions, certainly did his part for his team, but as I said, they were not able to win the game. The New York Giants, it has been a very woeful season yet again for the New York Giants, and they had had enough of Shane Bowen, their defensive coordinator. They let him go. There have been a number of late collapses for the New York Giants. This is obvious. This is a team that could probably have 6 wins in this season, believe it or not. They have really fought. The biggest one, if you guys remember, was the game against the Broncos, in which they had a humongous lead in that game and just gave it up, just gave it away all in the fourth quarter. Broncos end up scoring 33 points in the fourth quarter, and they lose the game. I think that's when his fate was sealed. Obviously, head coach Brian Daboll was fired, so that whole staff is most likely to be gone. But it's not often that you see a interim head coach fire a coordinator or a coach during the time that they're there. If they're going to make that move, they usually do it immediately. I can't recall a time where I've seen an interim coach start his tenure, get a few games in, and then fire a coach or much less a coordinator. So that was very, very rare. things that obviously come to a head there. And I don't think a decision like that is made unless something is expressed by the players. I'm just going to be honest with you. Now, I have no intimate knowledge of that being the case, but I just don't think moves like that are made unless a key player or multiple players come to that interim coach and be like, hey, listen, we got to make a change here, or, it's going to be very difficult to move forward with the rest of the season. So that is my feeling. There were some players that were unhappy. Obviously, we, heard the clip after the Broncos game where Brian Burns was heading into the locker room and he expressed some disgust, let's just put it that way, with, some things that were called late in the game defensively. I'm not in favor of stuff like that being done, but sometimes when the frustration builds so high, it's very difficult to hold those things back in. And then I will also say that in that tunnel right there, you're not really expecting yourself to be filmed. However, in this day and age, you can go nowhere short of the restroom, and I don't know how much longer that's going to last, without there being a camera or recording device somewhere. So I believe a number of players probably expressed some concern, and that probably got Shane Bowen out of the door. There'll be more of that coming down during the year. But the truth of the matter is there are a lot of guys out there struggling, coaches that I'm saying, and sometimes coaches get very stubborn in their ways, and there's just a fine line there between making adjustments and making so many adjustments as a coach that you kind of lose who you are, and then you just kind of lose control of you lose control, and you just don't. Suddenly, this isn't your defense anymore. You're just calling things randomly because you've just made so many adjustments that you're way out of your comfort zone. And then there's also the other flip side where there are some guys in the league right now, and I'm not here to be naming names. Maybe that's something I do down the road, but they're just so stubborn that they will go from place to place, continuing to make the same mistakes over and over and over. And I've noticed this, maybe I'm just coming to this point of awareness, or maybe this is happening more. We are in a generation where younger folks are more vocal nowadays, and more I am seeing players be vocal about schematics and about coaching. And, at certain points, they will flat out just stop playing for you. They will or a number of things will happen. They will vocalize that they don't like what's going on here. They just don't like the development, the scheme, et cetera, et cetera. And then the next step is, if nothing is done, if no changes are made, if results don't happen, they'll just flat out stop playing for you. And that can be a nightmare for the head coach, for the GM, for the entire organization, certainly for the fans. And I think that happens more often than people realize. And so I think head coaches need to really take into part of their thought process should be what kind of adjustments a coach is able to make. Is this guy that's going to be stuck in something that could turn archaic? Because from one day to the next in the NFL, what you're doing may not work anymore. And if you're not able to adjust and tweak because you're too stuck in your ways, well, then now you're just going to get taken advantage of. And, you're just going to have very poor results. Players are going to be upset, and it could be a really bad season. And then that bad season could result in the head coach getting fired. So I don't know that was definitely a case for Mike Kafka. I mean, he's probably a long shot to get the head coaching job. That's just kind of the way things work out. But he felt the need to make that move. And once again, I just don't think that happens without players coming forward and saying, hey, it's him or me. So Shane Bowen out as a defensive coordinator for the New York Giants. You guys let me know down in the comment section. Do you think that was the right move? If I have any Giant fans watching this podcast right now, but it doesn't have to be just Giant fans, coaches, players alike. You guys watch NFL football. Even with the Giants being bad, they're still a team that people watch. Do you guys think that was the right move? I wanted to bring this up before I get into my first topic. I asked this on my Instagram account. I listed 4 young cornerbacks that are playing in the league right now, probably your 4 highest paid guys. I haven't really checked, but I'm pretty sure about it. And I said, you've got 4 guys, Patrick Surtain 2, You've got Sauce Gardner, you've got J.C. Horn, and you've got Derek Stingley. From those four guys, I want you to make a secondary that has two cornerbacks, one strong safety, one free safety. What would you do? I would love to hear from you guys out there that are watching this, how you would line that up. Which two guys would you leave at corner? Who would you move to strong safety? Who would you move to free safety? My answer personally is I think my two cornerbacks would be Surtain 2 and Sauce Gardner. Why Surtain 2? I don't need to answer that question. Best cornerback in the game right now at any age. My other corner, I'm going to have Sauce Gardner at that corner. Tall, long corner. Yes, there are those criticisms out there that he's, grabs a lot of penalties, et cetera, et cetera. Sauce Gardner is a solid cornerback. I just think he was under a microscope with the New York Jets. He did receive a lot of hype in there. So, with a lot of hype comes a lot of backlash if you don't kill it. And he was at an organization that's just not winning right now. So, he may have – there was undue hype coming with his name coming out because his name is Sauce and he went to the New York Jets. But likewise, I think there was a little bit too much criticism for the way things were going there in New York. But I think Sauce Gardner is a solid corner, long arms, a lot of great traits, twitchy. So I would leave him at corner. So if I've got Surtain and Sauce at corner, I think I'm going to do really good pressing guys, playing man-to-man coverage, and getting guys locked up. I feel really, really good about that. Strong safety, out of that group, man, just off of sheer size, I think you've got to go with J.C. Horn, who is not just a size guy. He'll come up and make tackles, and that's going to be a part of what you'd have to do at strong safety. He will also provide very good coverage in the slot, whether that would be against a tight end or, one of those speedy receiver guys. I think he's going to be solid against either one of those types, and I'm not sure that I would be able to get that out of any of the other three guys, short of maybe a Patrick Surtain, but he is elite at the spot that we have him at out there at corner. So I don't want to move him there. I think my next best guy out of that group to be in that position would be J.C. Horn, although he could play any of those four positions in the secondary. But off of sheer size and abilities and physical traits, J.C. Horn would be my strong safety, and that leaves free safety to Derek Stingley, who I think has very, very good ball skills. He's shown that at both at LSU and his time here in the NFL. Obviously, a guy that can cover if you need him to do that, but if you're talking about a guy that can play on a hash or in the post, I think out of those four guys, Derek Stingley would probably be the best at that. Great movement skills, great ball skills. And I think that he would probably, in a secondary of these four guys, if I'm trying to fit everyone into a spot, that's probably the best place for Stingley. But what do you guys think out there?
Stop. You know you didn't have all the interceptions that you wanted to have this year. So how are we going to fix that problem? I've got two great resources for you. First is my book, 101 DB Tips, chock full of information and tips for you to get your hands on that pigskin. Everything from how to train, how to play man coverage, how to play zone coverage, and a whole lot more. Plus, the All Eyes DB Camp members area breaks down coverages for you, technique, quizzes, all kinds of great things in there that's going to up your knowledge, that's going to get your hands more times on the football this year. Check them out. I have a link in the description down below.
How would you make your secondary? Once again, it's Patrick Surtain, it's J.C. Horn, it's Derek Stingley, it's Sauce Gardner. How would you line those guys up in your secondary? What two at corner, who at strong safety, who at free safety? Drop that in the comment section down below. Would love to be able to hear that. So now on to my first topic, and that is, where is the drill time? Okay, I've had this thing going on. All right, I train guys at all levels, high school, college, professional guys. One of the prevailing things that I will get from all three groups is that there just is not enough individual and development time, especially from the guys in the college and the pro level. They say that a lot of their individual time where they are expecting to be able to either learn, develop, or sharpen their skills to play in the game, in the scheme, is spent learning the scheme, going over things of the scheme. And I think a lot of coaches now have moved into this thing where They think their whole identity is going to be locked up into the scheme, their ingenuity in the scheme, their, whatever little tweaks. It's like the signature on a portrait by an artist, and they think that that's going to define them, and that's how they are going to, you know, put their stamp on things. And with that being the case, I think a little bit of too much time is being spent there. If you're eating up the individual periods, or you're shortening individual periods to double down and triple down on scheme to teach the scheme, maybe the scheme is too complicated. Maybe you're running too much. There's only so much time you're going to have at practice. There's only so much time you're going to have in a week. If you've got to use up all of the available time teaching the scheme, it's too complicated, or you need to run less stuff. Because what I see happening is guys are not getting their skills developed. I'm noticing this the most at the Power 4 level. Players are coming out, they're trying to go play NFL football, and they lack some of the very basic skills that they need. And when I start questioning them, this is what it seems like's happening. They did not have a lot of skill development time while they were playing college football. Now, granted, before any coaches that listening to this go and get mad at me, yes, I know we are in an era where guys don't get enough work. They don't do enough extra work. There's just so many other things for them to do. There's so much social media. There's PlayStation. There's just so many distractions versus the generation before them and a generation before them. I totally understand that. You've got to understand that that is the case. And as coaches, you've got to kind of take it upon yourself if you want maximum production out of your guys. You've got to understand that there's a lot of distraction and that these guys aren't going to do as much, and take it upon yourself to get that time when you can get that time with them, meaning out on that practice field. You've got to make that time for them. Now, I know my position coaches, you're at the mercy of the defensive coordinator and even the head coach who doles out the time, who talks to you about what needs to be done in your Indy period. I understand that. So if you're a defensive coordinator listening to me out there, please pay attention to this, because you guys are running schemes. There's all these little different things that you want to do, you want players to do, and they just don't have the skill level to run it right. And so when the coverages get busted or they get defeated by the offense, you start doing more tweaking. You start trying to do more stuff. You start trying to change stuff in the scheme, when the truth of the matter is a lot of times is you just need to double down on the skill development on the players. All right. You're out there running quarters and these guys don't know how to climb to the post. They don't know how to have an effective crossover run. They don't know how to have an effective crossover run that also allows them to break down on some routes that get, those intermediate routes. They just don't know how to do it. And if they're in a game not knowing how to do that, then routes get completed and you start feeling like it's the scheme. And it just has a trickling effect all the way around. I will tell you, as a cornerback, it's not a good feeling to go out on the field and feel like you don't have the skills necessary to execute a certain coverage. When I was in my first year at the University of Miami, I went from being a press corner all the time to playing cover two, where we got hard reroutes. Okay, this wasn't some cover two where you're just kind of loose and you're reading two. No, we had to stand in there, catch technique, and get hard reroutes. And I will admit, in that first season there, I was not good at it. I had not had enough practice at it. The other guys on the team who had been there for several years were good at it. They had had that practice time. I was actually out there on the field not really having those skills yet, and it was a horrible feeling. There's just a lack of confidence, and confidence is a really big part of what we do at cornerback. And I just didn't have that skill yet early on, and I was out there. You've got players out here now that are in that situation. And so they, A, don't have the skill level. B, now they don't have the confidence. It's hard for them to play. And I'm not just talking about cornerbacks. I'm talking about safeties as well. If I'm sticking to quarters, and this is, this is just the coverage that people tend to be running more, we've got safeties in quarters who are man-to-man on slot guys after they get past the linebackers. All right. So however it is you guys run it, when the number two receiver, the slot receiver, gets to a depth of 10 yards, safety is man-to-man with him. Well, what kind of off-man skills has that safety developed? Because when I watch a lot of these, it seems like they just don't have that. The receiver climbs past 10 yards. He starts stemming them inside. They don't know what to do. They immediately open. And now they are open to getting their backs attacked. All right. There's no really good pedals out there. No one knows how to come out of these breaks. They don't know how to read the receiver. I mean, there's a lot of things missing there. Now they know where they're supposed to be in the scheme. They understand that because it's been drilled into them. Their Indy time has been spent with that, or they've had plenty of walkthroughs, or there've been plenty of meetings about it. But what about their skill development? So many safeties come to me at these upper levels, and they don't have a decent pedal. How are you going to survive in those coverages without a decent pedal? There's so many skills that are missing. I mean, defensive backs across the board lack ball skills. What good is that? Yeah, in your scheme, they're going to know where to be, so they'll be with the deep post or the corner route, but they can't locate the football. So the ball gets caught anyway. How good is your scheme if that's happening? Sometimes we've got we've got running backs. We've got safeties coming down, and they're in a run fit. Can they read the blocks? Can they get off of a block? How much open field tackling are they doing? You as a coach out there have to think about all of the different things you're asking a player to do in your scheme. And then you've got to ask yourself, how much drill time have I allowed them to have to develop those skills? We're blitzing safeties and corners off the edge. Yeah, I know in the scheme, the idea is for them to come free. But what if they don't? Plays dead. That's it. So now they get blocked up and everyone else is in man, and the quarterback can hold the ball for an extra 2 seconds because that corner or that safety doesn't know how to duck under a tackle that slid out on them. They have no pass rush moves. They can't swipe the hands. They've got to spend a little time doing that. So as you think about it, there's all these different things that I'm telling you. They need to know how to pedal. They need to know how to weave in their pedal. They need to know how to have a crossover run. Obviously, the corners need to know how to play their press coverage. That's a difficult technique. It takes time to learn, and it takes a lot of reps to maintain and continue to do right. How do guys blitz? What happens if someone steps out on them? If the running back picks up the blitz, do they know what to do after that? There's so many different skills that are needed, not to mention getting off of blocks on screens and going to make tackles. For each thing that you want to run as a coach, that each little coverage that you want to put in there, each little tweak that you want to put in there, there are a set of skills that are required. So you don't just get to run all this stuff and just just send those guys out there to go build a house with a screwdriver. They need a whole tool belt. So let's consider how big of a house we're trying to build, because there's only a limited amount of time. Maybe we build a smaller house and we give those guys a tool belt full of tools that they can use to get the job done. They will need a hammer. They will need a saw. They will need a drill. They'll need all of the tools to build a proper house. Or we could just have a big house not sitting on a very good foundation, and the house will fall apart, or they won't be able to get the job done. And maybe you don't notice it at first, but at some point in time, everything comes tumbling down. That could be week 5, week 6, week 8. And then you find yourself in a situation like I just explained with the Giants, where, defensive coordinator gets fired. I'm seeing that more and more. That's why I'm bringing it up right here on this podcast. I'm not pulling this out of thin air. This is stuff that I'm hearing from players. This is stuff that I'm observing on my own. And it is all seemingly true. There's not enough time for skill development. So you guys have got to start working that into the Indy drills. You probably need to increase the Indy period. You probably need to start taking some of the scheme teaching stuff out of the Indy period. The Indy period is for skill development, developing your back pedal, developing your kick slide, teaching guys press and continuing to go over press. Press, man, is like hitting a baseball. You can't be going by days and weeks without working it and then expect for it to happen in the game. Think if professional baseball players didn't take batting practice every day. If they didn't hit off that tee every week and work on those skills, you think they're going to get in that batter's box and hit a curveball or be able to handle a 90-something mile per hour fastball in on their hands and be able to turn on it? there's a special set of skills that are needed to play press man that guys must go over. All right. And you've got to provide some time for that in practice. Should players do stuff on their own pre and post practice? Absolutely. But don't think that they're going to be able to get all the necessary skill work in those periods of time while you just talk all about scheme in the individual period and throughout practice. It's not going to work. The best coaches, the best defenses, the defenses that work the best are married up with how they practice and develop the skills needed, the tools needed to operate in all of those schemes. So that is my big message to my coaches listening to this and to the players listening to this as well. I know I have just essentially taken a shot at some of the coaches out here. If this is you, then you're going to feel attacked. You know, they say, hit dogs holler. But as players as well, start making out some time. Understand the situations that you're in. Start making some time pre and post practice to get your skill work in. You want to work on the things that are used the most, the skills you're going to use the most while you're out there playing in the game. Or if there's some area that you are extremely weak in, you would need to spend that time there. I say pre-practice, you work on the skills that you totally lack. Post-practice, you work on the things that you know you are going to be doing the most. So if your team presses a lot, if you're a big press man team, post-practice, man, stay after, do your 10 minutes, 15 minutes of work on your press coverage. I would dare say it's a skill that needs to be worked on daily. It's a daily skill. Major League Baseball players take batting practice every day. They hit the ball every day. It's that kind of skill. So that's my message to you guys there. All right, time now for the user question. And I've got a good one today, pretty interesting one. Comes from Cornelius in New York. But before I get to the question, if you have a question for me that you would like for me to answer and potentially read on the next Indy Drills podcast, you have a couple of ways that you can do it. You can respond in the comment section. If you're watching this on YouTube, drop your question down below. Be more than happy to take it there. I read all of the comments that are made on the videos. Or if you're listening to this on a streaming device, Apple Podcast, Anchor, Spotify, anything like that, you can send your question to me at cwilson@alliesdbcamp.com. Again, that's cwilson@alliesdbcamp.com, and I'd be happy to answer that for you. This week's question comes from Cornelius in New York. You don't hear Cornelius every day. And why is New York my leading place? I love it. I mean, it's my birthplace, where I'm from, but I mean, football is played all over this country. Most of my questions coming from New York, Florida, California, Texas. Where y'all boys at? Georgia, where y'all boys at? Anyway, Cornelius in New York asked, who's the best DB coach you ever had and why was he the best? Cornelius, that is a great question. I've had a number of great defensive back coaches, starting from Coach Randall at my high school. I wouldn't say he was filled with tons of knowledge, but you know what? Fully understood the schemes that we were running, which weren't very complicated, but very good at teaching them for a guy who had played offense, who was on the offensive side of the ball. And I wouldn't say it started off as part-time on defense, but I'm playing both ways. He did a really good job of coaching. I had Hall of Famer Willie Brown as my coach as a freshman at Long Beach State. So we're talking about one of the fathers of bump and run teaching me there. My first year at the University of Miami, I had a guy by the name of Sonny Lubick, who went on to be a head coach at Colorado State and is a legend as a head coach at Colorado State. Then I had a guy by the name of Greg McMackin. Did not have the looks of a DB coach. I will tell you that right now. If you see a picture of Greg McMackin, you would say offensive line coach. No offense there. It's just how he was built, how he was put together, looked like a former offensive lineman. I will tell you, of all the coaches, he gave me a lot of ticks and trips in terms of technique, not what you would have expected. And then the final guy that I had when I was at the University of Miami was a guy by the name of Willie Robinson. He kind of put all the things together, very good with the mentals, tough-minded, very solid with technique. Have nothing against that. Went to the Seattle Seahawks. Willie was, again, my coach. And then I was getting coached up by assistant coach Dave Brown, who had 54 career interceptions in the NFL. Rest in peace, Dave Brown, no longer with us, but a solid, more than a solid, Pro Football Hall of Fame worthy DB in Dave Brown. But the best defensive back coach I had was a man that came and coached me in my second year at Long Beach State University by the name of Jimmy Warren. Just really quick on Jimmy Warren. He was from Louisiana. He played collegiately at Illinois, and he spent 12 years in the league playing for the San Diego Chargers. And yes, for you New Jacks out there, the Chargers playing in Los Angeles used to play in San Diego. I have to lay that out for my young audience. Played for the Miami Dolphins, where I would say he probably had his best years, and then ended his career playing several years for the Oakland Raiders. He and Willie Brown were teammates. Jimmy had 25 career interceptions, including a year where he had 5 interceptions for 198 return yards and a touchdown for the Miami Dolphins. In fact, single season for all of the great DBs that have ever played for the Miami Dolphins, including a guy that I trained throughout his career, Xavier Howard, and then there's great Patrick Surtain, Sam Madison, that whole crew. He ranks 4th all time in single season interception return yards with that 198 that he had. But Jimmy was not, I did not like him at first. I'll just be honest. I think I've spoken about that in the beginning. Could not stand him. And I think the reason was he was in your face. He would tell you right now. So I went from Willie Brown, who was all about boosting your ego and all that. And I was, I'll be honest, I was Willie's boy. He gave me his number that he wore throughout his days in the pros. I was number 24, and he's really patting the back. Dude loved me. I could do no wrong for him. So I went from that to Jimmy Warren not putting up with anything that I gave that was less than my best. So he was very much in your face. If you had a booger in your nose, he was going to tell you, and that's just how he was. He was a hard ass. It was difficult for me to adjust to that in the beginning. He would point it out. He was not letting anything slide. Very solid on teaching press technique. Really the first guy to give me really good, technically sound advice on playing press man coverage. It was obvious that he was very good at it and that he knew how to teach it. So I was thankful for that, because that's all that we did at Long Beach State. We played press man coverage. 3rd and 20, press. 1st and 10, press. 2nd and 5, press. We pressed all day long, and it was great. As I talked about in that last segment, this is what we're doing. We spent an awful lot of time working on it, so I could go into every game feeling very solid, very good about my technique that I was going to be using for about 80% of the game. And he really doubled down, drilled on that. And I will say one of the biggest things I learned from him that I took to my coaching career was he will be on your neck all week long. He will make sure that in our preparation, he let nothing slide. You were on the details. And if he had to go off on you out on the field in front of everybody, or he needed to, call you out in a meeting, whatever he had to do, he was going to do it to get you prepped for that game. When the game came, though, he left you alone. He would turn into a different coach. He was not a hard ass on game day, because here's a guy that understood what it was like to play. On game day, if as a coach, I have made a decision that you are the person to start, be out on the field, be playing, I cannot now turn around and go crazy on you for anything that you've done out there. I made a decision. I watched you all week. I decided that you're the guy to play. And so now I'm going to help you on game day. And he turned from being the military drill sergeant, Army general, to on game day, I'm going to help you. So you'd ask for information. I give him information. He would tell me what he saw, and it was very much collaborative. He couldn't go out on the field anymore. His days of playing were over, but he was going to try to help me as much as possible. He would, on game day, keep you level-headed, boost your confidence where needed, and allowed you to go out and play. And he just had a way of putting all of those things together. So if you ask me why I think he was my best coach, he was solid in everything. Solid in the technique, solid in getting you prepared, solid in having you right mentally on game day so that you could be your best. And so you went from a guy that I could not stand and we had our battles with, to a guy that I ended up adoring. And after my career was over, realizing that this guy was my best coach After I left Long Beach State, my first season at Miami, we ended up playing in the Sugar Bowl, which, is in his hometown of New Orleans, Louisiana. And I got him tickets to the game and had a chance to meet with him and spend some time with him and reminisce. And, I let him know how much I didn't like him in the beginning, which I'm sure is something he's heard before. Just, you couldn't be the kind of coach that he was and not know that players didn't care for it. But letting him know just how much I appreciate it. Now that I had moved up to this next level, to this upper level, and I'm going against some real serious players and need to be on point, I was glad for all of the things he taught me and the way that he taught me and the amount of development that I was able to have under him. So that's the answer to your question, Cornelius, in New York. Jimmy Warren was my best coach throughout my career. Again, if you guys want to get your question answered, you have a question for me, or you want it read on the next Indy Drills podcast, drop your comment in the section down below. Ask your question there. Or again, if you're listening on some streaming device, you're not able to see this on YouTube, send your question to cwilson@alleyedsdbcamp.com. All right, moving on to my final topic. Now, I spoke to our coaches in the first topic and said, we need more drill time. All right. In the secondary, we need more drill time. We can't be doing scheme all day and we don't have the tools. This is going to sound Jekyll and Hyde, but now I'm talking to my players. It's not all about the drills. I'm primarily talking to a lot of the guys that I encounter on social media, or, guys that I train. Players out there, you guys seem to have very little interest in scheme or in the intellectual part of the game. Let's just be honest. I guess for you guys, it feels like more schoolwork. And so you're just interested in the drills. If you go through my page and you look throughout my YouTube shorts or any of the videos, you will see the most watched videos on here are anything that I put up about drills. That's, kind of the same in all of my social media accounts. I post anything about scheme, explaining a scheme, or anything on really the IQ of playing defensive back, it's not watched as much. That lets me know that it's the players don't really take to that. Let me give you guys some really good advice. Drills are cool. You need the drills. I explained that in the earlier topic. Yes, you need to know how to pedal. Yes, you need to know how to have a good crossover run. You need to know how to get out of your breaks. You need to know all these little things in terms of drills.
Hey, while you're out there training to be the part, might as well look the part. Sometimes you just gotta fake it till you make it. And one of the best ways to do that is with gear like this from the All Eyes DB Camp shop. A wise man once said, when you feel good, you look good. When you look good, you play good. When you play good, they pay good. Now you can look good when you head over to All Eyes DB Camp shop. You get shirts like this, Play Defense t-shirt. I got long sleeves, I've got shorts, I've got no sleeves, I've got arm sleeves. Everything you need to look like the DB you think you're going to be. Head on over, have a link to it down below. Go get dressed up now.
But if you don't have any football IQ, the drills are worthless. I will tell you that right now. Absolutely worthless. A lot of guys just want to have their prep be that. Coach, what's a drill? Let me have a drill. Coach, give me a workout. Coach, what's a drill for this? I'm struggling with this, Coach. What's a drill? A lot of times it's not a drill that's going to get you out of that. It's just knowledge. You guys have got to understand that part of it. You do need to understand the scheme. You do need to know how the coverages work. And a lot of guys stop in terms of studying coverages after they learn what it is they're supposed to do. You need to know what everyone is doing so that you don't get tricked. I promise you, if the only thing you know on the defense is what you're supposed to do, you'll get tricked out of that. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Football is a high-speed game, and offenses are skilled. They spend a whole lot of time figuring out how to manipulate you. Yes, they know you're supposed to be in that deep third, and they figure out ways to get you to not be in that deep third. So they flash routes in front of you. They throw combos at you. They do all that. You know who that stuff works on? That works on guys who only know their job and don't know what the safety next to them is supposed to do, what the linebacker is supposed to do, where their nickel is supposed to be. They have no idea of what the other jobs of the guys around them are supposed to do. So you get tricked. You get tricked. And so your knowledge of scheme, your football IQ in terms of understanding the coverages must expand to what everyone around you is doing. Understand how the whole pie works. There's not a drill for that. That's you actually studying, reading, watching videos, listening, taking notes, and going over it multiple times so that you understand the scheme. Part of the reason why the coaches that I was talking to in the first segment do so much on scheme is because they know this about you guys as players. They know that you guys aren't going to spend any extra time on scheme. So they hit you with all that scheme work, all that scheme talk during practice because they know you guys are going to spend no time on it. What? Study a playbook? That's PlayStation. I need to be sending out snaps. I need to be on TikTok and Instagram. I will not study this playbook. I already know where I'm supposed to be in cover 3, cover 2, cover 4 pumps. I already know what I'm supposed to do. I don't know what everyone else is supposed to do, but I know what I'm supposed to do. So that they go, that's why they have the walkthroughs. Hopefully, if you see it enough, you're going to notice where everyone else fits and we'll be fine on scheme. Because the coaches get anxious. If guys can't run their scheme, they know they're not long for the job. That's why they do all the scheme work. So help the coaches out by studying this stuff on your own. On top of that, you need to understand how offenses work. Remember how I said just now that they'll trick you? They will try to find a way to keep you out of that deep third or get you out of that flat if that's where you're supposed to be. You've got to learn how they go about doing that. Understand offenses. Understand how RPOs work. Understand how spread offenses work. Understand the different route combinations. You guys need to get some work on that on your own time. And that doesn't require any physical exertion. It just requires the time like you are spending right now to watch this. So in between all those different other YouTube videos that you're watching to entertain yourself, and I'm not telling you not to do that. You know, you're a human being. You want to be entertained. Slide some football videos in there and learn something. Take 10 or 15 minutes, 20 minutes a day just to learn an offense. Find these offenses that everyone is running right now and understand how they work. When you do that, you're going to get such a feeling out of the field that's out of this world. When you just know what they're doing before they do it, just by alignment, you're going to know what's coming. Do you know what kind of a feeling that is? Do you know how much confidence that gives you? Do you know how much of a better player, how much you're going to be able to anticipate when you start understanding that? I totally understand the scheme. I know that when I'm in the deep third, who is going to be in the flat, so I can't get tricked by a route that goes in the flat. I know who's in the post, so I can't be pulled out of my third to the post because I already know that free safety is going to be there. I know who's in the curl, so you can't trick me with a route coming in front of me that's staying in the curl. You're not going to trick me into that. I know who's going to be there, so I can make my communications. I know my leverages that I need to line up on. I know when I line up in press man coverage, I know where my help is. I don't just know that I have press man and I'm sitting here thinking I've got this guy by myself all over the field. If I'm truly knowledgeable of scheme, I know exactly where my help comes from, so I line up properly. When he releases off the line of scrimmage, I position myself properly on that player, and I can squeeze him to my help, and I don't get pulled inside when I'm supposed to be outside and they run some kind of an out route on me. Do you know the feeling? I know you know the feeling of that. All right. I know you know that feeling where you're supposed to be outside and receiver tricked you that he was going inside, gets back outside, catches the ball. On top of that, there's just the coach that the look from your beginning that's just going to suck. And it's all because you just didn't know where your help was and you're out there playing blind. It's essentially what you're doing. When you don't understand the scheme fully and you don't really know offenses and how they attack you, you're playing blind. You might as well put one hand over your eye and play the game. So it's not just all drills. Guys come to my members area. That's what they're hitting. The drills. They want to know the drills. What drill? Get it. I got you. I got you on the drills. The drills are there. The drills are going to be meaningless and not very useful for you if you don't have a football IQ, if you don't understand how to play the position. So I'll go back to baseball because it's a pretty simple game that we can understand. You can do all the drills of hitting a ball off of a tee, taking your batting practice. You could do that all day. But when you get to the higher levels, if you don't understand, if you don't have an IQ about pitch count or what that pitcher is trying to do, how he's trying to set you up, how he threw a ball in the inside to hit a curveball on the outside, to drop a curveball on. If you don't understand that IQ part of it, it won't matter that you did all the hits off of the tee or took all the batting practice where they just threw all fastballs. It won't matter. That pitcher will still get you out. He will outsmart you for all of your hitting that you've done. So I think what we need to understand is that all of these things are needed. You need the drill work, but you also need to understand the scheme, the coverages that you guys run entirely, not just your job, and understand how the offenses operate. What does their alignment mean? What do they like to do in this down and distance? As the routes start coming off and getting distributed, what are they trying to do to me? How is it that they manipulate us in this coverage? How is it that they beat this particular coverage that they know we're in? How does the receiver set me up to run his routes? If you don't know those things, it won't matter that you do these drills. It won't matter that you kick slide or that you pedaled forever or that you did a W drill. It won't matter. You will be late. You'll come out of your break fast, but late, and the ball will be caught, and you'll just be tackling all the time. Or maybe not. They'll just get so much space that they leave you. So yes, I know you guys want drills, and I get guys asking me for drills for literally everything. Coach, I'm having a hard time defending a fade ball. Do you have a drill for that? Yeah, go catch footballs. But again, I've got a ton of drills. I'm really good with devising drills that are applicable to the game. It's one of my strengths. I can develop drills that will apply to the game that aren't just a waste of your time. I've got a ton of those. I'm here to tell you, though, if that's all you want to consume are drills, you're going to be a mediocre player. There's a mental aspect of this that allows you to continue to get better and progress through the game. If you don't want to grow mentally, your career will be over after high school. You won't go to college. And if you go to college, you'll flame out really fast. If you don't want to dig down deeper, maybe you go to college, maybe you play a little bit. You'll never reach your full potential. All-American, not happening. The best DBs that you see out there, high IQ guys. Tyrann Mathieu did not make all these plays in the league because he was a physical specimen. High IQ player. Just start naming guys out there that you think are great. Pat Surtain. Oh, you think, just because he's 6'2" and got long arms, that's why he's great? Nope. High IQ player. And I can tell you that firsthand. High IQ player. All of these guys that you see out there making plays are high IQ players. Do they do drills? Yes, but they study film and they know the schemes and the coverages and they study their playbook. So that is my message to my younger guys. I had a message for the coaches earlier. You got to give those guys drill time. But I'm talking to my players now. It's not just all about the drills. So yes, do your workouts, do your drills, spend some time learning the game of football, or you really are wasting your time. You're really just doing exercise out there. So if you just want to do DB drills to be in shape, all right, cool. It's good for your heart health and all that. But if you're doing these drills in hopes of being a good player, you better marry that up with some football IQ, studying offenses and knowing your playbook. Maybe then your coaches, the coordinators and the position coaches won't feel so much anxiety about you guys needing to learn the scheme and eating up your entire individual period development time with teaching the scheme. Because after all, you do need to know where to be in the coverages. And if you guys aren't going to study it at all, well, they're just going to use that time when they're together and they can see you doing that. So help the coaches. I ask the coaches to help you guys. Now, players, I need you to help the coaches by doing some stuff. Be a smart football player. All right, I'm going to close it in this. I would, as a coach, at all times, look to play the smartest player. I will sacrifice a couple of tenths on a 40. I will sacrifice a couple of inches in height, a couple of pounds off of a bench press for the player that was smarter than the other player. I just can't have you being in the wrong place at the wrong time. I can't scheme that up. Be the smart player is my big message for my players today. All right, that's going to do it for me. On your way out, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a like and share it. That helps me out. Subscribe to the channel. A lot of you guys watching this aren't subscribed. Do me that favor. Go subscribe to this channel. If you play DB, if you train DBs, if you're a parent of DBs, this is the channel to be on. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so you're notified the next time that I make a great DB video like this one or have another Indy Drills podcast. Of course, on your way out, you need to grab a copy of this book or check out the link, at least check out the resource. It's the #1 DB reference guide out there, 101 DB tips. I have a link to it down below. Of course, check out the All Eyes DB Camp members area. It's such a great place for you to be. Over 300 posts on technique, schemes, learning coverages, talking about offenses and how they attack you. There's quizzes in there. We have discussions. And of course, drills. I have an extensive drill library in there for you guys that need drills. Talk about, I have post workouts in there as well. Everything you need to be a tip-top DB. So guys are using that. If you're a guy that's not using it, there are people out there getting better than you. Just understand that. Tremendous resource. Wish it was something I had when I was playing or even coaching. But it is here now. Great resource for you guys. 101 DB tips plus the All Eyes DB Camp members area. Links to both of those down below. All right, that is it for me. Hope you guys enjoy your turkey day and your holiday weekend. I will see you guys next week. And as always, All Eyes DB Camp. Consistency breeds results.